2025. If you can, we'll all stand and salute the flag. If you want, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we take the agenda out of order, seeing the Goodyear Elementary School Post Office project first.
Of course. Let's just hold that for a second. Let's do roll call and then hear your motion. Could the superintendent please call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Austin?
Present.
Ms. Chisholm?
Yeah.
Ms. Cormier?
Present.
Mr. Lipset? Present. Mr. Morenin? Present. Ms. Weston?
Present.
Ms. Crowley?
Present. And I have a motion pending from Ms. Cormier to take the learners that we have here and hear them first. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes, and I believe Ms. Patrici is here with some special guests.
So while they're getting organized, the background is that Ms. Patrici and Ms. Williams at the Goodyear initiated this program this year, and it's gone over very well, and it's an opportunity to kind of highlight some of the things that happen in our elementary schools every day. So Ms. Patrici will tell you all she did was say yes on this, but I think there's probably more to that. But so here we go.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you guys. My name is Ellen, and I run these meetings, so I'm happy to have you here tonight. And I'm going to ask your principal what's going on, and then you can have a chance to speak, okay? Sound good? All right, thank you. Go ahead, Principal Patrici.
They're the important people here. We're here to present our postal service that was started Goodyear. And like Dr. Crowley said, all I did was say yes, but I'm being honest, all I did was say yes. It did look like this. Yeah, sounds like a great idea. You'll talk to Amanda. I can't So, very different. But yes, we probably this year. He's a new teacher to us this year as of probably October, I think. Okay. And then Ms. Williams and I came in to do this year. So anyone that comes to an idea, you'll learn a little bit more about that in a minute. I always say yes to, and then we'll figure it out. And really, Ms. Williams and Mr. Norton ran with it, and it's just unbelievable community-shaping event and program that has started in our school. I'll tell you a little bit about how my first experience with it, literally. I have a mailbox outside my office. It's a townhouse. I share with Ms. Roque, who's the secretary there. We have 2 mailboxes. And I receive letters from students. And I think the most exciting thing about it is that I'm receiving letters on advocacy, whether they want something changed in school, maybe issues that arrive around the school that are student-facing that they would like, addressed, or just beautiful rainbow pictures that I'm not used to getting from high school. They really are awesome. It develops a lot of the communication within our building too, so I feel like kids that maybe don't feel comfortable coming up to talk to me can easily write a letter. So of course I make sure I write back to every letter, and sometimes I might get, hate mail back that they don't like my answer, and that's okay. But all of them, I put a positive pickle inside every single one to make sure they leave happy. A couple of the requests I got, I put it in the budget this year. We're going to get a boat. We're going to Brazil. I said, well, let me just see if I can get that passed for the budget.
I'm surprised the council didn't mention that one last week.
I don't know. We were looking for a cruise line of luxury, if you don't mind. But trip to Brazil, 4 recesses. That was a hard no. I said, yeah, just learning. Not to put Miss Wetzel on the spot, but I have her daughter, Addie Wetzel, who requested a talent show. So I made her make an official meeting with me, and she came and scheduled one, sat down, had an agenda. I said, you need to come with a proposal. I said, I won't listen to you, And so she came with a proposal, and she was able to do the marketing for me. So she passed in her marketing this morning, which includes Braille. We're starting a talent show next week to present our character traits. So I could go on a long time, but again, all I said was yes like this. So let them take over. Thank you very much for listening.
So we have a few slides. Do I?
Yeah, you probably go through first. Yeah.
Amanda, I'm the person pressing the button.
Oh, perfect.
Just either beep or give me a thumbs up.
Perfect. Yeah, so a lot of what Ms. Patrici said is true. Mr. Morgan came to us with this brilliant idea that he actually remembered from his childhood in elementary school. And he was like, I still remember doing this. It was around Valentine's Day that he had come up with the idea and offered it to us and said it made such an impact on his career in school and a lot of his peers. It's something that they all remembered. I was like, oh, that's amazing, let's do it. I'm so excited. And of course, Mr. Tracy was like, oh, you guys are going to have a blast with this. Go for it. I was like, yes, let's go. So there are just more positives than anyone can count, and I'm sure you can think of so many more, but just like the leadership, the social emotional aspect of it, kids engaging with one another, and really just the smiles and fun that it brings across our entire school. So when we got started, we knew it was going to be quite an undertaking, getting the whole school on board. So we had to get the staff buy-in, obviously, at one of our staff meetings. We brought up the idea to the staff. They were all in. We had some students actually that went to school with Mr. Norden that are in our building that also remembered it and were able to help with the presentation to our staff. So that was awesome. So we got underway, all our staff in the entire building, every specialist, cafeteria worker, reading specialist, custodians, anyone in the building, you name their name, they have a mailbox. So they created an address, a mailbox, and we got our students, our 4th and 5th grade students, excited about the potential of working for us. So we offered it to our oldest students so that 5th graders would obviously have the most opportunity, where it's their last year at the Goodyear, and for our 4th grade students to have the opportunity to learn from them and help grow this year after year. And so we had them apply to either be a mail carrier or a mail clerk. And you will see in your folders, we shared with you what the requirements were for the job, what qualifications they would need to have. They would have to apply for the jobs. We had about 60 applicants that applied, and we interviewed everyone. So the interviews took place over a course of 6 days. Mr. Norden and I interviewed every student with the same questions and did ratings just to make sure it was fair in our selection. And then we had 30 students who were hired because it's just him and I really, and when I say him and I, it's really him, watching the students and really working with them, training them, and making sure that they can do the job and be responsible with it. He is with them every single day. So students that were selected have a rotating schedule throughout the week, and they work at, we have them working every day. So it's either a mail carrier day or a mail clerk day. And yeah. Oh, okay. And the students that weren't selected, we did feel very bad that we obviously had to have a cutoff, but students were still excited, and we said, you know, if we can't offer you one of these positions, do you still want to be included in it? And they did. So one of the questions in our interview that you probably all remember was, what would you do if you noticed that a student wasn't really receiving much mail, or there was like a classroom that wasn't receiving much mail? And most students said, what were some of your answers? What would you do? Write them letters or try to engage with those students and learn more about them. So we came up with a kindness committee. And the kindness committee are a group of students who help to make mailboxes for our staff members, who will write letters and create drawings or anything that we need basically to help kids feel really special and included. So it's really inclusive, and we were super excited to get started. So then we hired them, and the training began. And that's where Mr. Norton took over.
All right, so these are some of the photos from the interviews. Students came in dressed up. They had flashcards. They were prepared. These guys really blew us away. They were awesome. We asked them, like, are you nervous? A lot of them said, just a little bit, but I'm more so excited.
Yeah.
And then so after that, we did some training, and so our mailroom clerks, they are not here with us today, sadly, but they will organize the letters. They make sure that everything is addressed properly. They take a tally of every student who is receiving mail so that if we notice that some students aren't receiving much mail, so they take note in these folders. Each grade has a folder.
Nice.
Along with this one, this is other, so this is any staff. So each staff member or student who gets a letter sent to them, they will get a tally so that we are able to keep track of who's receiving mail, and then anyone who we notice isn't, we can approach the attendance committee and we can ask them, hey, we would love it if you could reach out to some of these students and make sure that they are getting some mail and make them feel special. And so the students, they are very diligent about that. They often come to me just like, can I just double check? I think this student is in this right class, but I don't know. But they do a very good job with that. They make sure it's all set, and then they give it a stamp of approval, put it into one of the cubbies for that classroom that allows these guys to come and pick it up for the next day of their shift, where they will then collect the mail, and they have their little bags, their tote bags, and they will travel around the school delivering it to each of the classrooms and each of the staff members. And then following that, they will collect it from one of the general mailboxes, as we have right up there. And that's where all of the mail is sent to be collected, to be brought back to our mailroom, aka my classroom. And then these guys will sort it out by grade to allow our mailroom clerks to sort it out by class.
One thing I want to add, he brought some of these from Burlington, thank you, but they also made some with the students and painted them themselves. Like, it was definitely a labor of love, and they're all measured to size to how big the students are that will be putting the mail in and make sure they can reach it. That's pretty awesome.
And then what you guys actually care about, these guys. So if you have any questions for them, or if you need to shoot anything up to me, I'd love to hear it.
Okay. So we're going to ask you some questions and see what's going on with the mail service at the Goodyear. Is that okay? Okay, great. Thank you. So Andrew, I'm going to point to Andrew, and he's going to ask you a question now.
Before I ask you a question, I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on this. I love every single thing about this. This is maybe my favorite presentation in my 6 years on this committee. And it's not just because this is something that is clearly like bringing students together, and it's a lot of fun and they want to be part of it, but you're building community, you're developing leadership, you're giving students job training, interview training, right? Like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, I'm a high school history teacher. I teach older kids, right? And we're doing a civic advocacy project right now in my class. And I'm listening to your principal say that this project has allowed you to start telling her what she should be doing in school. And that's awesome. That is so great. Like, that is something that your history teachers down the line are going to be teaching you how to do, and you're already doing it. So this is so wonderful, and I'm really excited to hear all about this, and I want to see it in action. But what I would love for the five of you, anyone who wants to, you don't have to answer my question, but anyone who wants to, if you could just speak into that microphone and tell me what your favorite part of this is. What's your favorite thing that you get to do as part of this? Anyone who wants to, take your time.
John, you want to talk?
I guess, like, delivering the mail is probably my favorite part of this.
What do you like about delivering it?
I'm really not sure.
It does sound fun.
Just getting out of the classroom.
And what's your name? Could you say your name? Joshua?
Dominic.
Dominic. Okay. Nice to meet you, Dominic.
My favorite part is that we get to social interact sometimes as well, and I love how we get to like look at the addresses, so then we can recognize things, and we can like get to memorize the classrooms in our school.
Wow.
That's really nice.
Good answer.
I think my favorite part about the Lion Pride Postal Service is similar to what Desi said about socializing with like other teachers, like maybe if you haven't met one, meeting one. I mean, that is kind of, and pretty much what she said, but it's my favorite part of being part of the Lion Postal Service.
Thank you.
My favorite part is being with everybody and like making new friends, and then you get to deliver with them and have like a partner.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That
nice.
sounds awesome. Thank you.
My favorite part is we can like go on every single floor and like deliver the mail.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you very
Awesome.
much. That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
I just have one question for Mr. Norton. When you are not acting as Postmaster General, what is your role at the Goodyear?
I am the Game 4-5 lead teacher.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here, and thank you for all of this. It's great.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Those are great questions, and thank you for those answers. Does anyone else have any questions for the postal crew? Jesse, this is Addie's mom.
Hi, I'm Addie and Rory's mom. Hi, guys.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thank you so much for being here. This is fantastic. Thank you guys for stepping up and interviewing and being so professional. It's like workforce development in action, which I think is phenomenal. I have a smile on my face, which will permanently last till I go to bed, and I'll likely wake up with one because this is just phenomenal. And Ms. Patrizi, thank you so much for saying yes to Addie. It meant a lot to her, and you really made her work to get the talent show and made her do everything. So kudos, because that's hard to do. If she's listening, it's true. But my question for our lovely learners up here is, what is the favorite letter you've received in the mail? Or funniest letter? It doesn't have to be favorite. Maybe something funny or creative.
It looks like Desi has an answer.
One of my favorites was that when my friend Natalia, she sent me a letter where we could call after school.
That's really nice.
I think my favorite letter that I've received so far was from my second grade teacher. She was just telling she was just pretty much describing me in a kind way.
I really like that.
My favorite letter was from my 3rd grade teacher. It was like super nice, and it kind of made me cry.
My favorite letter was one of my friends, Liza, sent me. She drew a picture of a cat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone gave us their favorite letters. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
My favorite letter will probably be the one I sent to myself.
I like that. That's good. Well, those are great answers.
Thank you. Those were great answers. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse, for asking that question. Who else has questions of the postal crew? Mike.
Thank you,
This is
Madam
Mike.
Chair. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, first of all, I'd like to know, we'll be on a roll again, and Ms. Patrici said that she had you in there and she's advocating in school what you might change, what you might want from the school. We heard about Ms. Wetzel's daughter. What kind of things would you ask Ms. Patrici to change or make different at the Goodyear school, perhaps? If you were principal for the day, what would you do, or vice principal? What are you thinking about? We heard a couple of things, 4 recesses. Yeah.
He did advocate for something that was a little bit of an oversight on our part.
Oh.
That was super helpful.
I guess changing our recess time to a time where we can have more fun.
They were having to share turf time. Like by the time one grade came out and one grade went in, there was a little bit of a layover. So he wrote to me about how they're actually missing 5 minutes of their turf time. So I was able to communicate that with the 4th grade team to make sure that we were being strict about the schedule, so they could get their full time on the turf.
That's
Awesome.
great.
Wow, that's great.
Wow.
Anybody else?
Things into action.
I guess I would change the recess time like he said. And yeah, because it just overlaps and Oh, right. So there was like, I wrote a letter where it was about the mac and cheese, which they do bring back like once or twice a month. But I wrote a letter because they hadn't been like making the mac and cheese and having that on the menu.
Who did you write the letter to?
It was either you or Miss Williams.
It was Miss Joanne. I can't first.
One thing I would change is that sometimes on the paper schedule for lunch it says like there's going to be a certain food there, but then sometimes it changes and it's not the exact same food, but it's like different. I would also change maybe if we could for second recess, it's 15 minutes. If I wish we could like have maybe like 1 more minute or 2 more minutes about it.
Yeah. Love more recess.
Like recess is a priority for Goodyear.
Doesn't matter time rates. And those were classes, only so many days left.
I wish that we could have like more seconds at lunch because sometimes we don't like get a lot, but most of the time we do.
Fair enough.
And one other question I might add, the adults, I guess, have you guys got an opportunity to maybe visit a post office and see how it actually works at the Postal Service? Maybe something, I know it's a short time, a year left, Ms. Patrici, but...
I have to say, we have not, but that was on our, we were trying to plan, again, they were planning, I'm like, we gotta call the postal people, we gotta get their extra hats.
There you go,
We had so many weeks left. So by the time we started, it was like April, and by the time we did all the interviews and hiring and everything, but we were like, we're not gonna have much time left to really get going with the letter writing, so we wanted to just get going. But that was Ms. Patrici's. It was on the docket to get them involved and see if we could even visit or get some donations as we were starting to collect things and make things. So.
And now, what's the boom box about? You guys play loud music at the Goodyear, too?
That is my mailbox for my classroom.
Oh, I couldn't see it, okay.
We are 319 Rockin' Road.
Oh, all right, that's the address, okay.
Yeah.
Very well, very well done tonight. And the reason we have you move the microphone around, because you're on cable TV tonight. That's why we had to move the microphones around, so the TV can pick up your voices and get you on TV tonight. Isn't that cool?
You have to go to school tomorrow and be like, I was on TV.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you, Mike. Dr. Ryan down the other end of the table had some questions too.
So this is awesome. You guys are amazing. But I would love to know, where did you get your bags? Could you hold one of the bags up so we can see it? And your uniforms. Wow. Those are incredible.
That's awesome.
So those were donated from my elementary school where I was first introduced to this program.
Nice.
Back then it was called We Deliver. I went to Francis Wyman Elementary, and I had reached out when this had come out to one of my former teachers, and she was like, oh my gosh, yes, the students love that program. We haven't done it in years, but everyone always asks about it. We'd love to donate whatever we have. So they were very generous in handing over. They also wanted it out of their stores.
These are awesome.
Yes. So each student, each postal worker has their own name badge with our little slogan of "We take pride in every delivery."
That is so cool.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan, for that question. My friend Pat there has a question.
Do you deliver, snow, wind, rain, and hail? Is every day a delivery?
It's regulated, it's snowing in school.
Get back there somewhere.
And is there no cost to stamps either? Because maybe I'll just go through your post office. I mean, this is really great, and I'm so impressed with the applications. And someone actually wrote in cursive. I am like blown away, and I am so excited. I think that this is just awesome, and I hope that maybe we can have more branches open up within the other elementary schools, because this is really, it's nice to have something different at your own. But this is awesome. I think it's great. And congratulations, you did a great job.
Great job. Okay, I'm looking around to see if anyone else has any questions for you. Let's see. Anyone else have any questions for our special mail carriers?
That's awesome. Hope you get a good pension.
Well, I am so happy to meet you. This is fantastic. Do you feel really proud of yourself that you get to do this?
It's great. Yeah.
And I also noticed that you get some reading and writing practice.
Yeah.
How do you like that? Do you like to write?
Yes.
Desi? Yeah? Joshua?
Yes.
Yeah, you get to write letters to your friends, right? That's great. Okay.
That's awesome.
I think you can go. Does anyone else have anything? Dr. Crowley, would you like to add anything else?
No, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to everybody's comments to see what's happening in the schools, and appreciate it. If possible, can we get a picture before you go? We'll put maybe the first slide up. There we go.
Yeah. There you go. So,
And Mr. Norton, thank you so much.
This is
for
great.
everything you're doing
Awesome.
here. I really appreciate
If any
it.
parents or
Amazing.
anybody wants to
take a picture.
Yeah, I want to thank the parents. It was really a last minute thing. I'm like, please come, and they all showed up. So come on in if you want to take a picture. Downstairs.
Well, bring your pictures over too, bring your cameras over.
Dr. Crowley, do you want to get in the picture with them?
You're in all our pictures.
Yeah.
Come to parents, Dr. Crowley, all right?
Yeah. Bring all the dads and, yeah.
So nice.
This is very nice.
Come on now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can take a picture.
Dr. Crowley, here. I'll come right over here.
Here, I'll take it.
And, yeah. We need positive press. Yeah. 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 Are you hiding? Get in the
He's hiding.
Yeah, get in.
Tracy. There we go. Get it out.
Yeah. Very good. That's awesome.
Thank you, families, too.
Hope they get ice creams.
Yeah, you better have a good treat tonight.
Yeah. I think Nana Beth says, well, it might be closed.
No, they're still open. Don't worry.
Right?
Oh, I know. Yeah, they're still open.
Thank you.
It's under 10. Yeah, and in the summer it's even later.
Oh, yeah, in summer's it forever, but,
Yeah, they're still open for sure.
and it's a nice night, so hopefully.
I can use this one. I promise the guys I took care of this
They did not, yeah, they went out of school.
Yeah, which is great. But yeah, they were at 6:30. Yeah, so I did the board. Yeah. And we got a bunch of the books that we downloaded.
I was just going to say that.
So Lenny, are you going to make us smile too?
I heard that there was a convention too, though, actually. There's been more people coming. Yeah. I've missed it.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion to return to the regular order of business?
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, we move to the regular order of business, which is the consent agenda. Do I have any action?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. Public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come and speak before the committee?
I know.
I'll give it a couple of minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't this the highlight?
Things you don't think are going to.
Yeah, right.
Good thing she knows everybody.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come and speak before the committee?
Sorry.
I'll take that for her.
Okay, public comment before the Woburn School Committee is limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name and the school you're affiliated with or your address, and please refrain from any direct attacks on public school staff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Emily Peters. I live at 4 Summit Street. During the budget presentation last night, it was asked of Dr. Crowley and Ellen Crowley if they would consider putting the ECP in the high school. I would like to thank Dr. Crowley and Ellen for being open to the idea. As this has been done in Burlington and Billerica, and it's been successful. As you're aware, there are currently 147 ECP students at the Reeves, and if you take a look at the chart, it reflects that number. This is substantially higher compared to any elementary schools on my list that I compared it to by a lot. Also, as we know, Woburn has an especially low number of peer neighbors. Moving the ECP to the high school and allowing for full-time ECP classes would make it more desirable to Woburn families. And also, as in Billerica and Burlington, the high schoolers could participate while helping in the program. As you know, the Reeves Elementary is losing space this year. My understanding is that a windowless office will become a classroom, and part of a closet will become the ECP office. While I find this to be a very resourceful use of space, the question is, what is next? As mentioned last night, retrofitting the ECP would cost money. However, it would cost exponentially less than modulars and with less scrutiny and controversy. There's also a desperate need for a new playground at the Malcolm White. What a wonderful opportunity to save money by building the two together. You could build a playground for both schools. As mentioned last night, it would be a change for the high school teachers if they did indeed have to share classes. Many high schools are moving in the direction of shared classes.
1 minute, Ms. Peters.
And not having assigned classes for teachers, much like colleges. While this may cause some discomfort, I appreciate you looking at the bigger picture in an effort to relieve the added stress put on staff, elementary students, ECP students, and families at the Reeves. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the audience for the committee?
Make a motion, we have Ms. Peters' document registered in the regular minutes tonight, Madam Chair.
I have a motion.
Second.
Do I have any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. This is now a public document. Thank you. Go ahead. Newberry?
Hey guys, Rachel Kuberry, I'm at 6 Blake Street. My comment tonight is regarding a topic that I spoke about last year that hasn't been resolved, and that's the threshold numbers that we use to add bubble rooms to a grade level, and more specifically the threshold number that we use to determine when to add a 4th classroom for a grade. Recently, this 3 to 4 threshold number has only been used at the Harold Wyman, though the 2 to 3 threshold is tried and true and used across many schools. In the coming years, the 3 to 4 threshold number will not only affect the Harold Wyman, but will spill over to the Malcolm White as we phase the redistrict and move students from the Harold Wyman to the Malcolm White. Our administration and central registration staff will need to know how many students can be added to the Malcolm White before they need to open a bubble room. Now is the perfect time to relook at these numbers and adjust them to be equitable. As you may recall, these threshold numbers currently leave 5 empty seats regardless of the overall number of students or classes. This unintentionally favors small schools because schools with 2 classes per grade qualify for a bubble room with a lower average class size than schools with 3 classes per grade. This system may be equal in structure, but it's not equitable, and it runs counter to the redistrict's goal of achieving equitable class size across the district. Implementation of the threshold numbers as is will cause larger average class sizes at the Harold Wyman and less equitable class sizes across the district. The only grade that sits close to this 3 to 4 threshold number across the entire district is the rising 3rd grade at the Harold Wyman. On the charts that were shared earlier this month, this grade is slotted to have 4 sections with an average class size of 18, and the Harold Wyman will have an overall average class size of 20, matching the district's average. This is great. However, if this grade were to drop to 3 classes due to not meeting the threshold number, it would have 3 classes of 24 kids. So this is the inequity. If there's 2 sections per grade and they had two classes with 24 kids, that would trigger a bubble room. But when you have 3 sections and they have 24 kids, no bubble room. So this isn't equitable class size. So I asked last year and I'll ask again, can the threshold numbers be adjusted to be equitable, no matter how many classes or students are in a grade?
1 minute.
The potential solution will be to maintain a 2.5 seat buffer per classroom, or make it an even 3, regardless of the number of classrooms, rather than the standard 5 seat buffer per grade. This would lower the 4-section threshold by a few and offer more equitable class sizes across the whole district. Finally, adjusting the threshold numbers now will only bolster your upcoming MSBA SOI. The SOI asks questions about class size and how the district manages it. Other districts answer this question with their guidelines about class size and include language about what metric they use to add bubble rooms. I urge you to take this natural opportunity to update the threshold numbers so they align with equity, the guiding principles of the redistrict, and the district's ideal class size. Thanks for considering this issue.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come and speak before the committee? I'm not seeing any. Okay. Moving on. I'll close public comment. City Council liaison, I believe, is otherwise engaged in City Council business tonight. Moving on to reports. Thank you, Mr. Viola, for listening to the school committee last night when he watches the school committee meeting later. Reports and presentations of superintendent and staff. Dr. Crowley.
Sure. Unfortunately, Mr. Burnham has to follow the Goodyear students. But
Good luck.
If you want to build something quickly on your way out.
It sounds like now you have to build an entire postal service. Thanks for the invite.
Anyway, it's been, whether it's a year exactly or very close to, Mr. Burnham's been part of the Woburn Public Schools, so has accomplished quite a bit over the past year, and then wanted to have an opportunity to share what he's accomplished, but then where we might be headed next year as well. So with that said, Mr. Burnham, I'll turn it over to you.
So, first of all, thank you. Appreciate it. And it was great to watch the Goodyear kids. That was awesome. I wish I wasn't following them. So I'll just quickly run down a few of the items and try to highlight some of the things that we have done as a group. First, some of the things are district-wide things. Working with the DPW, we've done some drainage updates and cleaning that kind of hasn't been done in a while through almost all of the schools. I think you've all seen, we've done a bunch of the paving items that are here and there, some vegetation management. That stuff we've done in conjunction with the DPW, which has allowed us to get more done by using less funds. With Dr. Crowley and Courtney and Maureen, we've done the security audits, which took a tremendous amount of time with the principals also. You guys have seen the report. We've started working on some of those. One of the projects this summer will be some lock changes at 4 of the buildings. Looking at security vendors, our intrusion alarms, fire alarms, sprinklers, all that stuff. We're revamping some of the vendors and how we're doing that to be more secure and safe. We updated our pest management system and the IPM, which is the state's website that mandates what we can and can't use for chemicals. We've done the MSBA audits, which I think everybody has talked about. They were quite intensive. I think like almost 4,000 questions. Wow. So they took a lot of time. It's still not completed yet, but we're just waiting for the MSBA report. And to be honest, I don't know what they're for. They didn't tell us what they're for, but we had to do them. We did some comprehensive roof analysis on all the buildings. So I'm sure that the mayor doesn't want to hear what the results of those are, but a lot of the buildings' roofs are more than 20 years old, so there'll be things that we need to do. We also endured a Department of Labor Standards inspection this year, which was, has brought some safety things to the front that we need to address, and we're working on those. We're working on putting in a work order management system so that we can better track how much we spend on all of our items and our assets. It's kind of, if we don't track what we're spending, it's hard to prove what we need in the future. So that's one of the things that's, loading all the buildings, all the equipment, all that data into the work order system is a time-consuming undertaking, but it's working out good. I know school committee member Mulrennan had asked those recycling dumpsters at 4 of the schools currently. Waste management's policy is more than 10 totes, they want dumpsters, so the Joyce, the Kennedy, the Harold Wyman, and the high school now have dumpsters. I'm sure that as the waste management contract changes, we'll be changing that more however they see fit. So we also undertook a load shedding program in conjunction with the city and NRG, our electric supplier, which we're trying to shut down or change occupied set points and off hours to save energy. That's working pretty good. And we've also updated the building management system schedules throughout. I think, over the course of time, they get altered for different reasons and maybe don't get put back. And that took a lot of time, but now I think most of them are running on a much more efficient schedule. If we go, I'll try to go quick, just school by school. Like at the Alta Vest, I think everybody saw the road paving in the back. We did some office and breakout construction to try to make more usable space. We are currently worked with the engineering department on the parking lot redesign for the handicapped accessibility. That stuff has been done. We will be implementing that over the summer when everyone's out. The Linscott, we got a lot of painting done. We made some upgrades to the assessment center that they have in place. Some outside fence repairs, small items like that. The Kennedy, there was some auditorium AV doors done. The extensive roof repairs there, a bunch of drainage repairs, and then some parking lot stuff. When you get to the Reeves, there were new boiler controllers, new BMS controllers, a bunch of actuators because the building's 25 years old, so there's just a lot of mechanical items that have been worked on over there. Same thing with the sprinkler system, right? The fire sprinkler system. All the heads are more than 25 years. So it's now time to start replacing them or testing them. At the White, obviously everyone's seen the new parking lot. Hopefully they like it. I think it came out pretty good. I think Chris Doherty and the DPW guys did a really good job with it. Engineering did a good design. So they're working on the drainage issue there. I think everyone knows that there's a drainage structure in the back that's not working correctly. If we could get a week of no rain, then we'll probably get more progress on it, but we've pumped it out quite a few times. The Shamrock, we spent quite a bit of money trying to rehab one of the chillers for the building. It's on its last legs. It's 20-something years old, but it was cheaper than a new one. Same thing, fire sprinkler heads are over 20 years, so we're either testing or replacing, which we've done. The playground security light is in. I don't know if anyone's seen it. Hopefully no one's needed it, but it is there. The Goodyear and the high school have, I don't know why, but have undergone a substantial amount of power outages this year, and the power outages have caused some catastrophic failures in some of our electronic systems. So at the Goodyear, both BMS controllers died, and they're 10,000 a pop. And then at the high school, we lost all of the dialers in the elevators at about $4,000 and we lost 8 fire alarm amplifiers at about $8,000 each. And so, they tell me they hadn't lost power in the high school more than once a year in a decade. And I think in the last 4 months, we've lost it at least 10 times.
Wow.
So these power outages have had some catastrophic consequences on some of our equipment. The Joyce, the Shamrock, the White, the high school, and the Goodyear, we've replaced all the air source heat pumps in the server rooms in conjunction with IT to try to help their issues with cameras and overheating. The Joyce, we also did the auditorium floor, some office work, and some carpeting. We also, I hope, finally solved a decade-long gas leak issue. National Grid had been here, since I've been here, at least 10 times. And like I said, I hope that it's been resolved by National Grid, but we'll see. The high school is a long list of items. Multiple pumps have been repaired. They've been, in disrepair for quite a while. Air source heat pumps, HVAC rooftop units, installed air source heat pumps in a couple of classrooms, numerous LED light fixtures. I don't know if anyone's noticed, we did a bunch of vegetation management on the trees, fertilizing and trimming. Bleacher repairs, all the UPSs for the head end rooms batteries have been replaced, new domestic hot water heaters there. So quite a bit done there. As far as what we hope to accomplish next year, I think, there's still a long list. I think everyone knows that we want to try to get some roofs done. I think when it comes to grants, hopefully we have some success with that, and that will help offset some of the costs. And there's still a tremendous amount to do on our mechanical side. And every one of these buildings needs parking lot repairs, flooring, classroom painting, furniture. So there's a lot to do, and we'll keep moving forward. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you, Director Burnham. I really appreciate you being here tonight. You also helped the committee quite a bit with the modular situation, too. So thank you for that.
I wish we had a little more success.
Hey, the night is young. But I'm going to turn to the committee, see if they have any questions for Director Burnham. Jesse Wetzel.
Hi, I just want to say thank you, Lenny. You've done a tremendous amount of work very clearly, and thank you too from the Resources and Capital Planning crew. You're always willing to come to the meetings. You have a lot to share, and you're a wealth of knowledge, and really thank you for answering my questions.
Anytime.
Are crazy. And I want to say thank you too, because yesterday I found out through your efforts we saved money on our electrical budget with some of the solar power. So thank you for that. And I know there's been a lot of collaboration between you and the DPW through the city, which I think is wonderful, and really utilizing the crew. And also the accessible parking spot that actually came directly from a parent that you stepped up and we were able to take care of. So from behalf of the parent too, I know they're very grateful. So thank you. Just
My
really,
pleasure.
the only question I had, actually, now that I think about it, was do we know why the power has gone out so much? Is it storm?
If anyone here has a better answer from Eversource, I'd be happy to hear it. They can't pinpoint what it is, but they always seem to be going to the same locations every time. So I honestly wish I knew, but they're not very forthright when it comes to telling us why we're getting power blown. I mean, it only lasts for minutes at a time, but at that time, damage is done. Right? Unfortunately, electronics don't always handle power surges as well as, so it's been trying with that.
Hopefully better next year then.
I should say too, we have a really good staff on the facility side. The maintenance guys, the custodians, everybody's done super helpful. So
thank you for all your work in the team.
Thank you, Ms. Wetzel. Anyone else? Mr. Lipson?
Just curious about especially the roofs that we're looking at. I mean, I know that this has been a pretty persistent capital request. I was in part of the discussions last year when this was discussed with the mayor, and the idea of potentially floating it out to bond had been brought up. We haven't had any updates on any of that. I don't know if you have a sense of what number of roofs do you think are really truly necessary right now? What are we able to patch?
Well, I would say currently 2, in my estimation and from the reports we have, 2 of our roofs are critical, right? That being the Shamrock and the Linsky. The Joyce and the Kennedy, the roofs are newer, and we probably have 15 to 20 years left on those, regular maintenance. But the White, the high school, the Reeves are, 25, 22. So, those buildings are going to need roofs. I mean, your standard commercial roof is a 25-year lifespan, right? So if we can come up with a plan and funding, there's some options that would be less expensive than a full roof replacement. We could do a fleece back fluid coating possibly on them, and that would buy us another 20 years. But we can't do that on a roof that's been leaking consistently and has more than, say, 25% damp or wet insulation.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't escape my notice last night at the council meeting that a number of councilors voiced some pretty strong support for maintenance on our schools. I hope that this is something that they take a look at when we have a capital budget that we are trying to advance through. We desperately need some funding for this.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that the council recognizes that this is part of maintenance. We can't do all this ourselves. We need support from the city, and that we're able to get some of those larger ticket items. But thank you for all the work you're doing, getting us to that point. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Lepsit. Anything else for Director Berman? Vice Chair Chisholm?
Only because I ask Alex every every finance meeting. The solar, do we know, have we gotten any farther, is like, we have them, but...
So, I had hoped to be able to present to you something complete.
I'll be so excited.
On solar. So we have active dashboards for all of our solar systems except the high school.
Okay.
The high school is only a 30 kW system. It's currently not functioning at full capacity, but we don't, we have to get a PO to get somebody to fix it.
Okay.
So we have some of it working, but that's one system that we own.
Okay.
The other ones are all PPAs. And so we pay out, but we get return on our electric bills.
Okay.
We have usage of production dashboards for all of them up and running. So we know what we're getting, which we did not know 6 months or a year ago.
Okay.
So we know what we're producing. The issue is we can't show it to you on an Eversource bill because we can't get an accurate Eversource bill. I think if anyone here wants to ask Auditor Doherty, Charlie will tell you the same thing. Eversource changed their billing system last June, and the bills are a complete mess. So the credits are not shown on the bill where they are supposed to be. So I've sat through at least a half a dozen webinars and Zoom meetings with Eversource people about getting it resolved, and we're still, at this point, not much further than we were a year ago. I hope that we get more traction with it, but the city has the exact same problem on their side. That we can't get accurate billing statements. I think if Alex can speak to it, there's an outstanding bill on the city side of like 130,000.
Yeah.
Eversource can't tell us who it's for or where it belongs.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Okay.
Interesting.
I wish I could tell you something different, but they've been happy to sit down and talk. But we just don't get any resolution.
Yeah, well, there you go. Those are the kind of meetings that you like. So, summer help. We will be using summer help again this year. Okay.
We just compiled a list of names.
Okay.
We're kind of weeding through them to see what the best fits are, and then we'll be getting them out going soon with the new budget.
All right, and the capital list, do we have an updated one, for this year, for July 1st, given to the council members too? Was that a part of the budget presentation? Just because I think that needs to be told to them as well as us, exactly what the capital list is that we're looking for, and if you could, I don't know, point out the fact that, these are critical. And, we don't want to spend money on certain things, but we need to get these things done.
I mean, Pat, you're effectively looking at 2 years of capital, because we got a number last year, but it wasn't the complete ask, right? We pulled a bunch of items out as requested, which we did, but those items, we haven't addressed them yet. So, and a lot of them are security and items that I guess, I'm not the funding person, so they would talk about bonding. I don't know if those solutions have been talked about on the other side.
Okay, because these are things that they talk about the schools starting to show their wear. Well, this is why. If we're not getting the money to keep them up, it's absolutely going to do that. In last night's meeting, there was the talk about how you had a reduction in your facilities end, and do you want to speak on that or anything else?
I mean, as far as the budget process goes for the schools, this is only my first time going through it, so, I'd rather just not comment yet until it comes to,
Passing.
they work out how it works out.
Yeah.
I understand they have a job to do. We have a job to do. I think it's our job to advocate for as much money as we can for the schools.
Absolutely.
It's their job to try to figure out what that number is.
Okay.
I'm all in favor. I mean, every other department head is advocating for their department. The fire department wants new stations. The police want. Everybody does. So that's our job, right? The only thing I would comment on last night maybe was, I know there was a lot of talk about grants, and we seem to be doing a lot with that. It might be prudent to bring the grant writer in and let him explain. He has a better handle on what they're trying to get for grants. And that might be something you guys can talk to him about.
That would be great, because
We're happy to work with them, and we do work with them quite a bit.
That would be awesome, because, I mean, you talked about that we've received it, I just don't know what it was that we received. But that's great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair Chisholm. Mr. Mulrennan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could, good evening, Lynn. How you doing? First of all, thanks for looking into the dumpster situation. I know it's coming up on some new bins and things for household usage, so perhaps we can get something for the schools as well.
Yep.
I know the custodial staff are dumping them more often. It also teaches the young children, the young learners in the building what's going on, and the high school has the green program. Atlantic Power Washing just pressure washed the bleachers, getting ready for the outdoor bleachers, getting ready for graduation. They look great. Perhaps on the summer list, could you do something with the inside bleachers at the high school? They're getting a little ratty looking.
They're scheduled to be maintained as soon as school's out.
That's what I figured. All right. And also, you mentioned a couple of crucial roofs. Could you also add the Alta Vista roof to that? And I mentioned at the last meeting that mold's been brought up at the Alta Vista, and I understand you have a meter or some way of checking that. Could you perhaps check that and get back to us with the readings that you find at the Alta Vista level? Shamrock roof this summer, no go.
We don't have any funding, so currently, unless you know something I don't know.
No, we were here last year, almost telling the Shamrock that as soon as the kids get out, here come the workers, and we're not doing that again. And as you said, that's a crucial roof, so it's just it's a shame that didn't go through. I understand you're on the energy what is that called? The energy something?
Clean Energy Committee.
So perhaps, and I think you looked into Eversource. There is a difficulty in the city of Woburn with energy right now, and it's not just our buildings, it's all over the city. It's just, Eversource won't give you an answer, but it's a thing that's happened a lot in this community. Apparently, if you go down, a household goes down and tries to get solar panels on your roof, which I happen to have now, you can't get your application through because Eversource is holding them up for energy issues in the city. So it's not just happening to the schools' buildings, it's happening across the town. What else might you have on your summer projects list, if you have them at the top of your head now that we're hopefully getting the budgets and getting some help for you?
So we're going to be doing more work at the Alta Vista. We have to try to get the handicap spots, widen some of the bus turnaround area, remove some of the non-handicap compliant sidewalks. At the Linscott, we are going to try to do some stuff at the playground, the fencing around the back. We do have some more assessment center upgrades that have to be done. I mean, as far as district-wide goes, I honestly, I've said this and I can't promise it's going to happen, but we've talked about trying to get a crew of summer kids to go around and just clean windows at all these buildings. So that's, what seems to be a priority for me. I'd like to get that done. We've got a bunch of parking lot repairs that we're hoping to get done. Obviously, I think you can look at every parking lot, Mike, and say, they're all 20-something years old, and we'd love to repave them all, but that's a huge number, so we'll do the best we can with trying to...
I like your cooperation with the DPW, get what you can, when you can do it.
Yeah, it saves a lot. I mean, we had all the catch basins at all the schools cleaned this past year to be compliant with our MS4. And that was all done by the DPW at a fraction of what it would cost to have an outside contractor do it. The salt barrels that you had asked about, that was done by one of our guys in collaboration with the DPW, rather than an outside contractor doing it. DPW used one of their machines, and that was the easiest, safest way to do it.
Great.
I think we have done water testing, which we're obligated to do every third year in our buildings. It hasn't been done in a while, so we're about 30% complete. I hope to have all the buildings complete testing done by the end of 2025.
Okay.
And then we'll go on a third of our buildings every year.
And speaking of water, I understand this is before your time, but the reclaiming of the water at the high school out back, My understanding was MSBA gave us funding and credits for collecting the water. The rainwater gets collected, goes into a pump room over by the Arts Center, gets pumped and used around the building. Apparently, that's currently offline, if you could look into that.
So this-
I heard a couple of reasons why, you don't have to go into it tonight, but again, it's expenditure to get it up and running, but it's just one of those things. I just don't understand why it's there.
So it's a gray water system, and it's designed to catch rainwater to be used in toilets. The system is not functioning now. Could it be made to function? Yes, but it will be a large expenditure. The tank itself has an issue. So if you can imagine, the tank's the size of a small car. So to get it in and out of, a new tank in and out of there is going to be, but I'm happy to look at putting pricing together and let you know what that is. And if we want to make that a priority, we can.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yep, absolutely.
I think that's it for now, Lynn. I know where to find you.
Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan. Anything further for Len Burnham? Not seeing any.
Can I?
Oh, of course,
Just
Dr. Ryan.
Just a quick thank you. You are incredibly responsive when our students with disabilities have any sort of need, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate your team.
Yeah.
And lastly, I also appreciate that when I looked out the window very late in the day the other night from the second floor, I saw you hot in the bucket truck, looking a little bit white, but fixing the flagpole. So that was
Ice
very
about my
much.
thing.
So, took me by surprise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thanks. Thank you, Len. Nice to see you.
Yep,
You're a
thank you
pro.
all.
We appreciate everything you
Good
do.
night.
Thank you, Lenny.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. Update for budget fiscal year 2026. Dr. Crowley.
Sure. Well, I guess just to recapture but not go through the complete experience, we did present last night down at City Council the school committee's accepted budget. It is $440,000 different than what the mayor sent down to the City Council, and so one of the things that I was thinking about doing with the City Council last night, and I hope that it was effective, is trying to build bridges and to say thank you. Last year's investment in the schools was record-setting, and I understand that there's an impact. And we just heard there's DPW, police, fire, there's a lot of different departments in the city that need and want and deserve funding. And so I appreciate that. My job is to advocate for the schools. And so I feel like we've been doing that well. The 14+% last year, again, was transformative. The document in color in front of you is what I went through last night with the City Council. And you've seen it more because of your role in the school committee, but really what we were trying to capture really is that we are a Woburn Public Schools that cares for all kids from ages 3 through 22. And that means the pre-K program at both the Shamrock and the Reeves, all the way through our post-grad programs. We have fine and performing arts that have grown remarkably over the past few years, in part because of the investment that has been made by the school committee. The band at the high school has doubled. The all-city band that kicked off Tannerfest is awesome. That didn't exist a few years ago. And so I spoke to Jack Tully yesterday, just in passing, and he can't say enough positive things about where the high school and where the whole music program is going. And so I say that because it takes money to keep these things going. The instrumental lessons dropping down to the elementary level to build more capacity. So it's a feeder system, which didn't exist. Now, Ms. Tifo, who's not here, the curriculum coordinator, obviously passionate about the fine and performing arts, but she should, I want to say to her, thank you, because her advocacy has led us to to put these, to the extent that we can, investments in place. Research will tell you that kids after school who are busy will do better in school. And so it doesn't even matter what you're doing. The research is probably a little bit more well-written than that. But being not on a screen, per se, music, arts, drama, and then one of the last slides we talked last night is Tanner Pride, and there's an athletic program at the high school that is incredible. We also have I don't know how many dozens of extracurricular activities at the high school, which are all free. Our AP students take exams for free. One of the pictures on here on the back talks about our early college program. We have expanded early college for next year so that, and we've had the presentation here, but over 100 kids are signed up to take early college next year at the high school. What that potentially allows them to do is earn 12 credits for free, a semester worth of credits for free at Woburn Memorial High School, and transfer into any college or state university. And so we are doing, I believe, great work to support all of our kids everywhere. The budget for FY26, the intent was to continue that work, and I believe it does. One of the things, again, put into place last year were reading specialists. I've been going and meeting with principals recently and talking about elementary Dibbles growth, and the kids are moving. And I think you've seen that on, I forget, a couple weeks ago, we had a presentation with the reading specialists. Our kids are making great progress. Our ML students, the percent of students that are moving from ML status to former ML, so they're moving, their access scores is incredible. And so our kids are doing great things. The teachers are doing great things. There's a group of pictures here. The professional development that we've been providing over the past couple years, is particularly on the early release days, I think is high quality and is moving the instructional needle. And so we've also been able to invest through capital, the Reveal Math program, but some of the literacy program, the comprehensive literacy program that we've spoken about is really paying off. And so we have a lot of exciting things happening each and every day in the Woburn Public Schools, but it costs money. And so and I would say to any educator, you're underpaid. I mean, that's the reality. I think that's how I feel about people that teach. And so with that being said, we did the presentation last night at the City Council. We went through a series of questions that they had and so forth. They didn't ask us to take any action tonight necessarily, but one of the things that did come out was this discrepancy of $440,000 between what the school committee and you voted on April 30th and what the mayor sent down to the City Council. And so obviously, I don't know if we need to close that gap tonight necessarily, but I wanted to prepare you if we did have to close the gap, what we would do to do that. And so for the committee, a list of potential reductions to close the $440,000 gap. The school culture specialist at the high school would be something for the committee to consider. The assistant superintendent for finance and operations, the position that we had advocated for, because I believe that with the MSBA applications, with negotiations, with the efficiency here, I think would add great value. We can unfortunately make do without this. This is where we're none of these are good ideas, by the way. This is the worst thing in the world, is saying that we don't need any. We need all of these things. So I actually want to say that. Like, I don't, this is hard to come up with this list. Because I don't think there's anything on this list that isn't needed. We have we put two ML paraprofessionals. One is a vacant position now, and one they'll be reallocated somewhere else. So no one's losing a job there, but we'll reduce the ML para line. And the substitutes, we had increased the substitute line item by $100,000 from this year to next year. Really that's the only line that we felt like we could reduce. I think that it's a challenge to reduce anywhere. Like I said, none of this feels good, and when we're trying to not touch student-facing positions, it's hard to go anywhere that aren't student-facing positions. And so, so much of what we've accomplished, and I just babbled for a little while, but, when we talk about the win blocks at the elementary schools, these are running really well. But it requires a content specialist, it requires a reading specialist, it requires more people to make these successful. And when I tell you that the Dibble scores are moving, they're moving. And so if we're then looking to really radically change the budget, we would, in my humble opinion, be going backwards. And so, and that's not where I want to go. And so, and reduce the legal line, which Ms. Chisholm had done. So that gets us to $440,043. That, again, we had a meeting, these meetings are awful because there's no good answer. And I think that the reality, though, is that Woburn's actually in a better place than a lot of places. So that's, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. We are adding positions. We're in the position of hiring right now. And so things are still going in the right direction, but it's just a fiscal reality that we have to contend with as a committee. And so that's an update on FY26.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Crowley? Ms. Cormier?
So do we need to vote on these so that moving forward, when the council approves their final budget, you are able to implement these things? What is our next step, I guess?
Well, I'll say this, that what's in front of the council to deliberate is not school committee budget. It is mayor budget. And mayor budget is school committee budget minus $440,000. So in order to get the council to add on to our bottom line, as you know, it's possible, but it's a super duper extraordinary measure in which they add to the budget. So they override the mayor's recommendation and add back in $440,000. So I'll let the committee kind of process whether or not that's something we could depend on to happen, or that we should start to look at some of the things that might be non-harmful to the system as a whole. Like Dr. Crowley said last night, that the assistant super was something that he would be willing to recommend for taking out of the budget. I'm just saying, there's action we could take that might be creating a collaborative effort to get to middle ground. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, and I'll stop talking. So I don't have an answer to Ms. Cormier's question. Does anyone else have any commentary to it? Mr. Lipset.
So, I mean, I agree. I don't think it's necessary for us to take action at this meeting. I do think, given last night's discussion with the council, a sense from this committee of, without any potential, I mean, we certainly could vote. I don't see necessarily a problem in doing that. I, for one, didn't get the sense that the council was eager to give us any more money than what the mayor's budget said at minimum. So I don't think that we can anticipate having any more money to bring back any of these positions. But I think we can certainly have a conversation about the value of some of these positions and whether or not we want to direct administration to look elsewhere, or if only to give the council a sense of our own thinking here, given the questions that they asked us, given our desire to maintain student-facing positions, all of this. So I think it's certainly valuable to have a good discussion about what we're looking at here. I don't know that we need to vote, but I'm certainly open to that suggestion if people wanted to go in that direction. I would say, so in terms of the NL paras, could you talk a little bit about why that is why that's an option for reduction for our budget. And I know Dr. Crowley said that is not a position where we're going to cost anyone a job, that's an easy transfer. But I just want to make sure that we're not sort of moving backwards on our ML services.
No. So one of the things that we've talked about over the past few years is that, and actually our tiered focus monitoring had told us that the ML para position, while very, very helpful, and I certainly think that like the support, that they don't from a compliance end, because they're not providing ESL direct services, that they're kind of an add-on, but they're not actually something that is really the recommended use. With that, we've maintained them because we understand that kind of the support and the value and all of the pieces that are there. But when we're talking about kind of things that are like required and things that are moving there, I think that what we've looked at is that the support that's being provided, we feel comfortable that there are other avenues in which that support can be provided within other positions within the district, because it's not that it's necessarily like caseload driven or anything like that. This is also the space in which we did do the reduction in the budget anyway, and that recognizing that, certainly I think that there'll be ongoing conversations as we look at what our ML numbers will look like in the fall. And if we need to kind of come back and have a conversation about it, we can, but we're budgeting for what we have here now, right now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, it's not a decision that I would like to make. These are positions of immense value. I have a lot of faith in our ML staff that they're, we've seen the evidence. They're doing a fantastic job.
We've also added, I will say, like that is a position I think that we have over the past few years, that department has been, a pretty steady increase.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's been a position in terms of the longevity of the job as a whole has been a larger conversation because it was actually recommended that we start to phase it out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of rationale to keep the role, and I think I'm not advocating otherwise, but I think if we're looking into a place where we can comfortably make that decision, I think it's better than others.
Yeah, I hear that. I guess I would say if we have some time and other options present themselves, that would certainly be something that I would love to see. If we magically find a better option, that would be among my top priorities here. But I understand that magic is not likely. So,
well, I think too, to keep in mind, especially at the elementary level, we've budgeted for more interventionists. So I think it's really a matter too of the fact that like we maintain support in a lot of different places. We've added a lot of positions in which support's being provided, and that's not to take away from the work that's happening, but also recognition that like we have added supports that can be providing similar supports as needed as we're looking at the kind of the needs and drafts of the building.
Okay, thank you. I'll let other people ask other questions.
Any more questions on the list? Ms. Wetzel?
Sure. First, I just want to say thank you to admin, to Chair Crowley yesterday for a fantastic presentation, and to City Council for their thoughtful questions and comments. I think there was a lot of good that came out of that meeting, and a lot more collaboration, which we've done a ton already, and I'm very thankful for our team here for all the hard work that they've done. And I think it was like 52 items we've reduced already. And I think it's wonderful the work that has gone behind the scenes, talking with all the building principals and seeing what we're really spending to make sure that we're giving the best budget forward. I agree that I don't see the need to necessarily vote on any of this just because we don't know. Maybe the council will add money back in. I remember Councilor Demers saying yesterday how important an assistant superintendent is. But I understand that it's important that this is a reality. We need to look at what we might have to cut from our budget and just keep that conversation going, I think is important. And one of the other things that I think came out of the meeting yesterday, at least that spoke to me, was the collaboration piece. And I had an idea that I think might be helpful. Similar to how the city council has a liaison to the school committee, I think it would be helpful if the school committee had a liaison to the city council, even if it's going to monthly meetings and giving an update on what the school committee is doing and what our top priorities are. That doesn't necessarily have to be budget, but it could be the Goodyear Postal Service or something else. I think that would then have, the council would have a better understanding of where we're coming from, and also that liaison could also help with organizing quarterly meetings where the entirety of both committees get together and discuss. I don't know if that needs to be a motion, but I would be happy to help make that happen. I just think the more collaboration, which again, I think we do a fantastic job, the better, and the better we understand where they're coming from and the better they understand where we're coming from, it just makes for a more cohesive environment and process. So that's sort of my thoughts. And then actually, those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. I think as chair, I have the authority, look at Mr. Lipsick, because you always know, to appoint people as such things.
I think technically yes, although it's not a position that we've ever defined.
It would have to be.
I think we would have to define it, and then you would have the power to appoint.
All right. Well, do you want to define it? Vice Chair Chisholm, would you like to whip something up in personnel about it?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Vice
And
Chair
Jesse will
Chisholm.
be at the top of the list.
Not to prejudice the chair or anything.
With that said, I'm sorry if I'm recognized.
Of course, Vice Chair Chisholm.
I just want to make sure that we don't have to include admin to have another night or another time out to involve them. I mean, it could be city council and school committee rep.
Right.
So that would be handled. I think they've out with all these meetings and it's crazy.
You need another subcommittee?
Yeah.
Are you into that?
Please. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Just this $900, but is that a contractual staff mileage?
Oh, Alex, the staff mileage?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
It's like $3,000 right now. We've never really even come close to that.
Okay, all right.
So that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, all right. Everybody knows my two things on here that I feel strongly about, but, we're 440 cut from what the mayor submitted, but we also have to remember, we're $1 million cut from what we originally had presented. So we were cut $1 million prior to this 440, so we're actually $1.5 million from what we thought we needed to run our schools, or hope to run our schools. So I just want people to remember that. And I just feel badly in the substitutes. If we do have to cut that to make this happen, that's going to be hard for me, but we'll do it. But maybe we can actually define that job more by next budget season, because we did have a council actually speak on it last night and support it. So I think that it's important that we realize that he has children in the elementary school and values the importance of having someone in the building every day that the kids would know. And I do think that it would also help too with when there's meetings going on in the school and the teacher is taken out for certain things, it would be nice to have somebody. So I really want to put a hard pressure to kind of, if we can finagle something, if money falls from the tree somewhere we can catch. And I just do think with legal too, I just feel we're going to run into problems with negotiations. I think we need to have representation, and I just felt strongly about that too. So things run a little bit smoother and doesn't linger as long as it has in the past. But that's my spin on those two. So we're going down the list. We just have about everything put back in. But no, we'll see. I don't know if we need to have a number by public meeting, though. I think we may have to. So we have to, I think our number has to meet what the mayor has submitted.
I would expect that.
By
yes.
public meeting, so that we would have
Yes.
to have a meeting next week if we don't.
That would make the most sense.
Yeah. I believe that's how it is.
I just, for the public, if that are following along, I just want to clarify that there's still positions in the budget that are still that have not been recommended to exit the budget, which is still special education mandated positions, nurse, psychologist, and 5 teachers, as well as associate principal at the high school and central registrar staff are still up for funding and are not on Dr. Crowley's list, but of course things could change. But those are still in the budget in case people are following along. Any further questions for Dr. Crowley on this list?
Could I just ask a quick clarifying question on what Mr. Dizio said regarding staff mileage? what I interpreted you say is yes, there's a contractual element to that, but we have tended to budget beyond,
Correct.
far beyond what we've used.
Correct, yeah.
So we feel comfortable in reducing that
Yeah,
amount.
even by reducing by the 900, I feel comfortable, yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Moran?
Thank you, Chair. If I could, a couple things. You just mentioned, actually, as chairperson, the keeping those other two administrators off your list, Dr. Crowley, other administrators, could you just explain again the importance of those and why they're, not in your reduction list? The
Associate principal and central registrar
Yes.
staff?
Oh, sure. I'll speak to the associate principal. The quick version is that with 4 classes at the high school and 3 APs, one of the classes is then taken and covered by the principal. And so the initial ask was for an assistant principal earlier on, which has been elevated to some extent to an associate principal role. As Mr. Qualey's become more versed at the high school, his vision for the position really is, he's going to be the culture specialist. He and his team want to be front facing with staff, but he also recognizes that he's not in the building at various times, and so the associate principal would be the person that would be, quote, in charge when he would not be available. He also recognizes the curricular challenges at the high school, and so having somebody that potentially has a strong curricular background might be beneficial in that role as well, so not necessarily managing day-to-day tier 1 low-level discipline, but thinking more systematically about the 9-12 alignment of curricular resources, of common planning time has been an issue that they're working through, so using time created more productively at the high school. So those kinds of priorities have been stated by Mr. Qualey to me.
Thank you for that clarification. And the other specialist, the other administrator?
They're not administrators.
No.
Yeah, the two
Yeah.
registration.
Right.
Or registrars. I think, the biggest thing that we talk about is that we've adopted a phased approach of redistricting. It is going to be incredibly difficult for that to be maintained without a central registration. I think we talked a lot about that throughout this redistricting process. I have spent a great deal of time today with the elementary principal team in preparing our phased redistricting plan that's going through the resource subcommittee. And I think that in order for us to be able to respond and continue the process as we have right now, until, especially as we consider a space, it's frankly not doable without it. I think additionally, I think that when you think about a central registration and a city and a community as transient as ours, and with enrollment and like communities, this is something that should have existed far beyond now. This is something that we have absolutely been needing for a while. And I think that one of the things that was asked of us last night was kind of related to kind of growing enrollment. And I think that one of the things that's important to think about is that kind of growth is in 2 ways. Like, yes, there's an increase in growth, but also thinking about kind of the in and the out. So over the course of a year or a couple of months, we can be maybe at a net of 50 students, but that could look like we had 200 in and 150 out. And I think that recognizing kind of the nuances of students that are entering and how we enter students and exit students. I know Dr. Crowley spoke a lot about kind of just what the process looks like, but from a data point, when we think about really kind of like how we're securing our funding for the community and how very important it is that our data is correct, that when you have, this system is not centralized, I think from the funding standpoint that we are, certainly not doing, the diligence that we could. And then I just, again, when we really think about the redistricting part, and again, just because I've talked about it along the process, it is very difficult for us to maintain redistricting without a central registration.
I just wanted to make sure that when the public heard the clarification again tonight for administration, because some of the talks last night was, this budget looks top-heavy, and you've got, too many people, but I think the explanation tonight from the administrators tonight kind of clears that up. The substitute, we won't go into it, Ms. Chisholm's, it's a big chunk of money, but again, the Friday's tours that Dr. Crowley and the mayor go on, and the principals have the opportunity, and not so much the students, but the principals will say, we wish we had that position available, just someone in the building all the time. So I think, again, it was going to be worked out, maybe phase it in or whatever, so it's something to keep it on the back burner for next year, coming up. And I think, to someone's point earlier, I don't see this particular council, from the tone last night at least, adding anything to the current budget. So I think, to make the mayor happy and get to the mayor's number here, which again, was a little bit confusing because Ms. Chisholm, as we stated, we had a figure, we were questioning, whether the mayor wanted any cuts. He came before us kind of denying that he wanted cuts, and now we're getting cuts, as time progresses. But the mayor has a lot on his plate with other departments in the city. So I think, to make these cuts, again, I'm not willing to vote on these tonight. The para, I understand the movement on the para person, but we hear each year how very, very intricate these paras are to us, to our students and our staff as well. So that, it's not a lot of money, but it's a body, it's a person that's helping our educators in the building. Just a question, Mr. Dizio, how are we doing for retirements? Are they in, out? Is there any more savings there? Is there anything that we're forgetting with retirements?
Nothing that we're forgetting, no. Yeah, I think we have 21 that'll be coming out for FY26 that's already reflected in this budget.
And I know Dr. Crowley mentioned last night that he's interviewing already for openings across the district. We have, to Ms. Young's point, elementary people leaving. We want to get those people in place sooner rather than later. So, again, it's, as the superintendent said, someone who sat through, as Mr. Demers said, some lean budgets, some really great budgets, and you kind of get in the middle here to this budget number tonight. So, not tonight, but I think the explanation so far for these, 440, hopefully will satisfy the mayor's number as well as the city council, and they don't attempt to make any additional cuts along the way. So I appreciate all the efforts thus far. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan. Anything else on this topic? I just had a question. So most of you were there. Darlene Mercer-Bruin asked me to pass along some requests that she would like a revised budget with the names. Our budget has teacher, and just names positions, but I believe that it was causing some confusion because they're seeing teacher move here and then teacher move there and they're not having the names. So she wanted us to consider publishing or handing the council a budget with names in it, and then wanted to know, again, it was late, but it was something like anyone that we've hired. Mr. Lipsey, you're nodding. What was the question?
So
immediate
my
hires?
interpretation of it was, if there have been shifts in these numbers since we voted on the budget. So the example that was brought up was Mr. Quayle moving to the high school, which happened after, or at least officially happened after we passed our budget. That wasn't reflected in the budget. So can we provide a running list of updates, right? So for example, if we've hired, we budget at step 5. If we have hired at step 3, that gets reflected. Things like that that may affect individual lines of individual salaries. Is there a way to...
Just an addendum sheet type thing.
Yes. And then, just because this came directly to the school committee, so, and then the rationale as to why salaries, this was my own kind of thoughts, is to sort of provide a visual as to why, when a teacher moves from one building to the next building, the salary might change because it's a different person, right? And so that can look confusing to someone that's not used to being an education budget. So I think those 3 things, but I want to make sure, if I could ask Ms. Dizio directly, is that a heavy lift to do all of these things?
I've started to work on this in anticipation of this being an ask. It's a little bit of a lift, but I think it's something that can be done certainly by the
We talked about it
Okay.
So we'll work through it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Normally, I wouldn't bring something like that up to staff directly, but it was directed directly to the school committee, so.
Yeah, no, and I heard
just
the request
reiterating
last
it.
night.
Yeah, thank you.
There was also.
I'm sorry, Assistant Superintendent Young.
I was going to say, I think one of the questions that I guess in terms of it, so I think one of the things that was talked about, for example, was the middle school and the high school and the switching, right? And so I guess what I just, in terms of, because I feel like I want to make sure that like we're clear
Yes.
and transparent on how some of this works. So for example, when we anticipated that move, right, there are like personnel-wise in terms of like people sign contracts, when notices and, you know, when Mr. Crayley is going to tell one staff to tell another staff. And so, like, we have lines, you know, the adjustment line in which we anticipated the changes of the salaries and put the amount in so that, like, when it moved around and then we had the funding to replace it and move it there. And I say that just because it's not like it was going to run hot and we had not planned on that money being there. It had been placed in the line because while we're doing, and I think it's to your point, right, even when I think about some of the staff moves that we're making, like some of the things that we know don't always aren't public for a lot of different reasons, because personnel isn't always. And so I think that's just kind of my caution in terms of kind of how we're looking at some of this, is that we are keeping track of those parts.
Yes.
And so I don't know if there's a way in terms of kind of how this is presented, is that in the very instance, of course, showing the principal change, that's quick. But that it's not always going to be that easy to kind of show that, because there's a lot of nuances, and that we are absolutely putting it in lines and you know, accounting for the changes that will happen, and we'll journal it in through finance and make those adjustments. And you know, once everyone kind of lands where they land, and I think again when I look at our postings that we have across the district right now, the staff and individuals that are applying for jobs across the community is a lot, right? And I say it just as for when we sit in a room and we track those, I get confused, right? Like, we have to go through the screen and like cross-check together a few times, and Maureen and I draw pictures and, you know, get confused with each other and then come back around, right? But I think that we oftentimes too will wait to move them until we have like the entire domino is done, because if we don't, then there are kind of problems that will occur. And so that's why I say by no means like that I don't want to that I don't think it should be shared.
Right.
I think it's just there's a lot more to this.
Right.
And I just want to be careful on like an over promise and an under deliver.
Yes.
Because I don't want us to say like, of course we can do this thing that I don't actually know that we totally can. That's
Right.
all.
And sorry, Dr. Crowley, please go ahead.
Sorry. No, I tried to explain the position control idea, both last night and on phone calls and in email. And I think what you're alluding to, and we're interviewing this afternoon, I think it was 5th grade at the Malcolm White, and that position opens up. Someone from the Reeves could take it. Now the Reeves position opens up for 24 hours at the Reeves, and then it goes 5 days external, and then, or internal.
I wish this upon no one to try to understand.
No, and so that someone from the Malcolm White applies for the Reeves, it opens up the Malcolm White.
Yes.
And then when I said last night, like, we could produce this for you, but it won't be accurate. We're accused of not being transparent and not accurate, but I don't think people understand the litany of moves that happen. And and that's part of what happens in schools. And we've said this at City Hall. We are not stagnant. And I was sitting there and I was respectfully to the library, you know, looking at the library, and like, comparatively, the staffing at the library is probably a lot more, you know, predictable than the school department, right? And so we are moving all the time, and I think it's, I need to do a better job explaining that to the city council, I believe, because one of my takeaways last night was they're not completely understanding, like, for example, when the nurse from the Alta Vista moves from the Alta Vista to the Linscott, the salary on the nurse line goes up, but the salary on the Linscott goes down. And so there's, you know, again, it's an extraordinarily complicated system that we live in, to understand if you're not living it every day.
Well, and
so-
I think what's important about it too is there are sometimes reasons where like you're not going to make that move of one person in the salary until you've almost like finished the cycle,
Yes.
right? And so part of what we do internally, right, is that every time someone is hired, we have a kind of a running track in which we know that like if this part is looking over, we're going to wait until we hire this spot so that you can move them around, because we're very conscientious of kind of how the number is. And when we budget, I mean, you're just doing a general guess, and so you're going to hire under on some and over on others,
Yes.
right? And those kind of cancel each other out, and then they come up whole. But we're not going to move one and then be down and then go back up the next day. I mean, talk about being here forever, right? And so I think that that's what's hard is that like I don't want to say we can do this thing and then end up in a space where we're coming back to and saying we shouldn't have told you we could do this thing because I don't know if we can. That's all.
I really appreciate that. And even this discussion is helping, right, describe some of the things. It's just that it might look like, or it might be conveyed out there, that someone is getting like a 30% raise, but it's two different people.
Right.
Yes.
And this is what I'm worried about, because a 30% raise is a lot, and it's not happening. I'm sorry.
That was the
but
IT
I'm
director.
sorry, Dr. Ryan.
We have this whole
Yeah,
contract. and
so,
everything.
so I actually went to look this morning because I was thinking about some of the questions, and I was looking specifically at the paraprofessionals, and you're in and out every week. And I do think that there's the perception that when we staff schools at the beginning of the year, for the most part, you have the same people. And so what I did is I went back and I thought to myself, whenever we have a movement, we get a little employee change notification, and it talks about the different things. And I thought, well, maybe I could print these out and just packet them. And then after I got to 200, I said, you know what, we're going to kill a whole lot of trees here. So we're
Here.
and aside from that, you could never follow it. And it was actually somewhat entertaining for me because we are just that fluid. And so you could take a snapshot today, but by this time tomorrow, it's no longer accurate.
Right.
And so you have to just sort of, decide we're going to take a snapshot now, and then we will take another one. But otherwise, we'd have to do it 3 times a day because it's just that fluid.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ryan, and thank you, everyone. Ms. Cormier, you had a comment.
I did, just regarding Councilor Mercer-Bruin's questions, there was also...
Oh, why didn't I even ask you? You have.
I don't know. How many positions haven't been filled from last year was the question, and then also how many won't be filled by July 1st?
I'm confused a little on that one and how
I actually...
Dr. Ryan, of course, yes.
Thank you. So I actually spoke with the counselor afterwards because we talked specifically about the paraprofessionals and how I might have someone that isn't filled for 2 weeks here, and then someone pops in, but someone pops out here, and then I have to move them to this school because someone takes a leave.
Yeah.
And we sort of did this whole thing, and it was the same piece. And so what she asked is if I would just give her where we're at today, but I was very clear that it was not an accurate representation of what you would see over the year. And it would be very, very difficult to do that because of just how fluid it is. And so we did talk about that, but I also did mention that with some of the special education payroll, there will be some money that is returned to the city. And that is because of some of those positions that were vacant for some point in time. And that is money that the city will be seeing back where the positions weren't staffed, whether it's for weeks or days or months.
Okay, so that probably satisfied that question. So I appreciate you taking the time, Dr. Ryan, to address that with her. And I'm thrilled that we're getting these questions and getting deep into the budget because it's really helpful to us.
May I add one more piece?
Of
to
course,
that?
Dr. Ryan.
Ms. Young actually just reminded me that sometimes people ask, but when they're not filled, why do we have them? Why don't we just eliminate them? And so one of the things that we have to do for special education is we always have to make a good faith effort to fill every position that we know a child needs because it's our legal obligation to do that. So we can't just eliminate them and say, gee, we wouldn't fill them anyhow. We have to make every effort to fill them.
Right. That's how we actually get funding, maintenance of effort. Okay. Ms. Mulroney?
Madam Chair, thank you very much. Again, getting to some of the points last night, I think perhaps what they were looking for as well is, like you said, Madam Chair, was they'd like to see a listing at the school and say, Ms. Smith, this step, this salary. And other departments, because being a firefighter, I knew, the entire city knew, under the fire department, it would be firefighter Michael Morenon, my salary, and the fire chief would submit his budget as such. If you want to explain why we don't submit it that way to the city council, I know you did an eloquent job last night, and it's just another explanation of why we do what we do, and different from other departments across the city. That was very helpful last night.
Oh, you want me to say it again?
Well, just again, we were paying attention last night. If you could be brief on it, just, again, it's about transparency and collaboration and cooperation, so, just reemphasize why it doesn't say Miss whoever, Mr. whoever at the, Mr. Norton, Goodyear, again.
Well, I believe that we got advice from MassBo, and it was an advisory.
It's recommended best practice statewide, and so if you look at all the surrounding communities, I can't find a school district that does it that way. Candidly, we'll provide. It was asked, we'll do it, but it's just MassBo's recommended best practice. In part because when we're putting the budget together for the reasons we just explained, things are moving all the time, and so
I think we all get that, Dr. Colley. Just again, a way to emphasize it and articulate to the council and others in the public that aren't aware of what we're doing here.
Yeah,
appreciate that. Thank
you.
Right. Anything else on this? Is there any? Sorry, Vice Chair.
I think that there's just they wanted to know the names and if they want to attach salaries, but they could also do it themselves if they go on the website, City Woburn, and find this stuff out. But I don't know if they just wanted that, and maybe if after the budget is done and we've finished doing this, if they wanted just names, we could provide that per school, something to let them have. I mean, I don't know what you made a comment. It's it's just as easy as an Excel spreadsheet and hitting a button. I don't think they realize it's not done as easy as that.
I'm just passing along because I told
we'll look at it.
Yeah, just maybe if
we'll look at
it. Give us some options because if they want to know names of employees, they can have names of employees.
Sure.
They're a public employee.
Right.
So just to
smooth
over and get something done, but I wouldn't waste a lot of time if we still have to cut $440,000.
Okay, so does anyone want to take any action on any of this?
I do.
Ms.
want
Cormier?
to take some action. I'm not sure how to phrase it, though.
Okay.
Are we looking to pass another number? Would that be?
The committee can take action if they feel that it is prudent at this juncture.
Or direct the administration that in the event that the city council passes a budget of $95,962, what am I talking about? $95,962,440, that in that event we support these changes? I'm not sure what we're, I don't know.
I mean,
what we need to do, what
I think we
they
need to
can do
make
with
cuts. I think we need to present the number to that for public hearing.
You mean we should cut these?
Yeah, I think we need to get to that number before public hearing. That's
Prior to
their
public hearing.
Yes, yes.
For them to have it before them.
Public hearing is June 9th.
Right, so we'd have to meet next week if we...
Would you like another meeting? Would you like to think about this?
Do it.
Yes.
And have another meeting?
That was going to be my question to administration is would you like a little more time to take a look through these before we vote? Should we schedule a special meeting? Or are you comfortable that this is the best that we're going to be able to do with this total?
I mean, this isn't
I realize that this is not the first time you've looked at this budget.
No. I mean,
And no cuts are easy.
No, I mean, we've
timeline problem.
Right.
I don't know when we're going to do it. We have multiple events next
That's what I mean,
week.
next week. We already got Thursday. Right.
And
Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to I don't know that we're going to do better than what we have in front of you.
Okay.
That's my thought.
That's I don't know how else to say it. Like we
No.
Unless the school committee has some idea that they want us to explore, happy to do that. But you know, we've tried to the extent that we can, be thoughtful about this to get to this point tonight.
Yeah, I think that the mayor has cut our budget, and there's no really going back. So we should, the committee could perhaps move to match our budget with the mayor's at this point. It could, instead of delaying the inevitable.
I would like to make that motion at this time.
Okay, so your motion is to adjust the budget
To $95,962,440 as presented to the city council by the mayor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
That was the-
With the recommended cuts.
With the cuts recommended by the administration this
Second.
evening.
Any discussion on the motion?
Just, briefly, I do think it's really important to note here that, you know, when we look at the assistant superintendent position, I think it's a mistake to describe this as a requested addition. We have lost administrative positions. We have lost central admin in the budget already. We are reducing by a tech director. We are reducing by a curriculum coordinator. Those are jobs that have responsibilities that need to be filled, and they are now going unfilled because we cannot hire a position that administration needs in order to fill those gaps. And so I think, you know, I don't want to let that go unsaid as we vote to reduce this position. I know that the perception of that position, perhaps in the community or on the council, was as yet another central administration ad. It really, really was not. It is a different position than what we had, but it is filling a gap that needed to be filled. And again, you know, I've said this a number of, look, I'm a classroom teacher. I have all of the biases of a classroom teacher. You know, my sense is, yes, we absolutely do need to prioritize student-facing positions all the time. And in every budget that I have been a part of, that is precisely what we have done. We have added dozens upon dozens of student-facing positions. And I don't know if we're neutral or up a couple on administrative positions in my time on the committee, but we are, you know, I heard the word top-heavy last night. We are not top-heavy, right? I mean, I would put us up, no, maybe our distribution in central administration is different than what it looks like in some other districts. That may be fair. But in terms of central administrative staff as a percentage of our budget as compared to like districts, no, we are not top-heavy. And so, you know, I want to honor the work that our administrators are doing and understand and hope that the public understands that as we cut this position, that is going to add more to a plate that is already overflowing, to several plates that are already overflowing. So I wanted to make that clear as we're voting on this. I know that we're voting to make people around these tables' lives harder, and so, you know, I didn't want to leave that unsaid.
Thank you. Yeah. That was sad. Any other commentary on this motion? Mr. Mulrennan?
I'm just curious, the administration, the previous high school principal, Dan Rassin, what's his position currently, and will he be in this budget?
He's not in this budget. He's working in the curriculum department on special projects right now.
Okay, appreciate that.
Any more discussion on Ms. Cormier's motion to adjust this budget to match the mayor's? All those in favor?
Aye. Sadly.
Okay.
Their public hearing was the 9th?
Yep.
Madam Chair, if I could, again, we have some people here in the audience tonight, and those watching at home, I'll make my annual plea that, you know, we have a budget, we have a new number going down to the city council level, and we hope and wish that the city councilors don't feel as though there's any unnecessary cuts that should be made to the school department. So I'll ask in any way, shape, or form you can contact your counselor, all the counselors at large, to support us and support our school budget via email. I've attended a couple of public hearings, and I was the only person that attended, so I think these are important times to us. They want to know about what's going on, they want to hear from the people, as we heard last night. And I think this budget, although it's not really the best budget, but it's doable, and we need the support of the community to come out and help us get this budget passed. So before June 9th, contact your counselors via email. Their addresses are on the website, and as they stated last night, they're usually very receptive to anything like that. So I'd appreciate any support from the community whatsoever to make this happen. Thank you.
Subcommittee reports. Vice Chair Chisholm.
We have not met.
Community Relations, Mr. Austin.
We have also not met yet.
Curriculum and Data Trends, Mr. Lipset.
We have not met.
Policy Subcommittee, Ms. Cormier.
We are meeting tomorrow morning, but we do have on the table for action at this time a few policies. I would like to move forward for adopting GBGE, GBGF, JF, JFE1, and JFE2. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion on adopting those policies? They're just coming from MASC?
Yeah.
Actually,
one of them came from Mr. Wyman.
Okay. Oh, right, that's domestic violence.
I know that abbreviated to us, Ms. Cormier, but if you could just
I would
explain those to
gladly.
the public just quickly.
So GBGE is the domestic violence leave policy, which was added to the MASC in 2022 and was recommended for adoption by Mr. Wyman, the HR director. We have GBGF, family and medical leave. This was previously my next motion. Spoiler alert. There were 4 separate policies that now this encompasses altogether. It was recommended again by Mr. Wyman. And then we have the school admissions, JF, and then 2 example policies with more language behind them related to that, JFE-1 and JFE-2.
Thank you for that explanation. Appreciate it.
Ms. Cormier.
How about that second?
Where were we?
Did we get a second? I don't remember.
We did.
You did, yeah.
Thank you.
Any discussion on adopting the policies as recommended by Policy Subcommittee? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And then for removal, BDC, which due to an update of a previous policy is no longer needed. And then the 4 that the family medical leave replace GCCC, GCCE, GDCC, and GDCC-E. I would like to make a move to remove those policies from the manual.
Second.
Motion to remove those policies from the manual as being redundant, right, or outdated.
Yeah.
Any discussion on that motion? All in?
Yes, discussion.
Of course, Mr. Austin.
I was going to bring it up during the subcommittee, but since Maureen actually mentioned explanation, is there a way that going forward that these policies can have a link that can direct public to MASC so that way they can be aware or prepared to know what policy that we're dealing with?
Well, they can go to the MASC at any time. When I submit my postings for the subcommittee and then my minutes, there are links to the Google Docs that have the current recommendations on them, and those are then in the minutes.
Okay, I mentioned this because I received like 2 comments from community members asking a reference to this, and I just wanted to bring it forward.
Yeah, you can direct them to the MASC website for their either reference or our current policies, and then also any policies that I have presented to the subcommittee are in the minutes. That's why they're bolded and underlined. So that that's my submission of the materials for the meeting for those in attendance, and then also for this meeting.
So just to confirm, so even during the for today's agenda, would that be, I know it's not here today, but in the future, is there a way for that to be listed there?
Generally it is, but this was, our agenda for today was posted before Ms. Crowley received my list of policies, so it was not updated. But this list was on the previous agenda as having been discussed.
Yeah. Excellent, thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Anything else from policy, Ms. Cormier?
Nope, 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Thank
right
you
here.
very much for all the work.
Thank you.
Resources and capital planning, Ms. Wetzel.
Yep, we've met twice. So the first meeting was the 14th of May. In attendance were Mr. Austin, Mr. Burnham, Ms. Cormier, Dr. Crowley, Dr. Ryan, and myself. And if you go to my notes, just for everyone here and for the community, you'll find links to our redistricting information again, as well as our FY25 capital budget, our current proposed capital budget for FY26, and then also our current capital budget 5-year plan. So if interested, you can have a peek at those. And I know it came up earlier about our capital budget, so it is in my notes. And also something that came up earlier was the grant writer, Kevin, through the city, and I've been in contact with him, as I agree. I think it might be helpful to have him come either to subcommittee or full committee, but it is something I'm actively working on. And our agenda, redistricting transition process, we went into further detail at our May 20th meeting, which will be on my next set of notes. And just a thank you to administration for all the hard work you put into this. I know it's a lot, especially Ms. Young. So thank you. We had a quick update on modulars from Dr. Crowley. He continues to monitor them with NOSIT. There'll be more information in notes following. Capital update, I don't want to go line item by line item on this because I think it would just be easier for everybody. If you just have a peek at the link, if you look at my notes as well, I did break down information that was shared at the meeting, so you can look at the capital budget, and in my notes, there's labels 1 through 1 through 23, and they correspond with the lines on the capital budget, so you can have a peek at those. Happy to answer any additional questions from community or committee members sitting at the table. And we did ask for a priority list from Dr. Crowley, and he said Reveal Math, Security Updates, and Malcolm White Playground were his 3 priorities. You'll note on the capital budget it does currently have 1 as priorities, so something we can look at again at resources. And then I have a list of our deferred projects for future planning. And we had MSBA update on our agenda, but Chair Crowley gave a lengthy, fantastic conversation and presentation at our school committee the day before, so we really didn't elaborate much on this. We just know that it is being worked on. And Fire Station 4 renovation across from the Goodyear, that fire station, the renovation is going to take place over the summer, so it's not going to affect anything with the Goodyear. And future agenda items, we have continuing discussion of redistricting implementation. We adjourned at 6, and we met again on the 20th of May. And the 20th of May, we started at 4:30. In attendance were Mr. Austin, Mr. Burnham, Ms. Cormier, Dr. Crowley, Dr. Ryan, Ms. Young, and myself. I have the redistricting link on that note, just because most of this meeting was about redistricting. So we talked a lot about the redistricting process so far, and big key items to note, all families have been notified. There's support and implementation, working with building principals and working with our ML director as well as our special education director, professionals to make sure students are supported in that transition process. We've had different activities already at our schools, tours. I've got some dates in there as well. Ongoing planning that we'll continue to talk about at our next resources meeting in June. We'll talk about gray areas, different projected enrollments, transportation logistics, building capacities. We reviewed our current transportation policy, which Ms. Cormier will be also looking at in the policy subcommittee, as well as we looked at our enrollment considerations, and that'll be also looked at in the policy subcommittee, just as they're really closely related to things with the redistrict. We had a modular update from Dr. Crowley, who again has been in close communication with NOSIT Public Schools. That's where the modulars we've been talking about all year are at. And there is a change. So the modulars initially were only available till the end of the school year. NOSIT now is actually going to be using them through the end of October-ish. So something to keep in mind. Mr. Burnham was also there to provide updates as needed. We did talk about Danisco Design. Donna, her proposal of a soil study / a location study of where the modulars might go of $30,000. We discussed, would this be a good investment for us to look at? There were pros and cons. Of course, we understand that based on our conversations with the city council, the need for additional information, which potentially this $30,000 project could provide, but we also don't want to spend time and resources and funding on a project that maybe we'll look at other options for. So there were some pros and cons. We didn't vote. We did think it might be helpful to have Donna come to one of our meetings just to talk about what that project might look like and what our $30,000 would get us. Future agenda items would, again, continue to talk about the redistrict capital plans. And we meet again on June 11th at 4. We adjourned at 5:19 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Wetzel. Question for administration. If we think about using Donna Danisco to consult about modulars, we are also doing this MSBA thing. So, and I assume that she's going to be an important advisory during that process. So is it prudent to consider, like, kind of, if we do...
Doubling up?
Doubling up. So that we're not just using her to look at the concept of modulars, but also the MSBA piece. It's just something to think about. It's not a direct question, something we can talk about going further. Because she's extremely talented and resourceful, and she knows Woburn Public Schools very well. So it might be what I'm trying to say is, rather than spending tax money on just a study regarding modulars, we could really expand her role to look at other MSBA questions as well. Okay. Anywho. So go ahead, Ms. Wetzel.
No, I was just going to ask, would we want her to come before the end of the school year, or we would think for her coming for fall? Just from a timeline perspective.
Probably fall.
Okay.
Because maybe during the summer, what could potentially be happening is starting to prep, because we have a really constant open communication with her, basically, right? And so we reach out to her for various questions about updating the feasibility study and all of such things. So I assume that the superintendent, as he starts to consider MSBA, would be contacting her anyways. So I think the fall. Does that make sense to you, Ms. Wetzel?
It does, yeah. And she can talk about both projects. And
right.
Kind of give us
an
big
overall
update.
Project. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Chisholm.
So where's the money going to come for this?
Right. Well.
So we have to be really careful about what we want to do.
Right.
And that was something we did talk about at Resources,
Right.
was where the money would
Right.
come from. But I think having her come to speak and educate, I think, is a great thing.
Yeah.
And
she's
great. Going to be important in the MSBA process. So.
Exactly.
And that's something that's on the forefront of everyone's mind.
Right.
But I believe that would have to go to bid when we start that process. So it's not like we can choose.
That's true. That's true.
So
Maybe
we have to really be careful we don't cross.
Yeah,
the line.
right. You're right. We go through procurement. Okay. Again, it's just like free floating thought, not really directing anyone to do anything. Ms. Cormier, did you have more thoughts?
I do. I just also would think that because NASED is going to be using the modulars through October, if there is a chance that we can get them, we would want to start that process sooner rather than later, so that whenever somebody's scheduling for doing this soil study, and also, then getting the results of that, and then being able to move forward after getting, ideally, city council. I don't know what that would look like, but I think I'm reluctant. I would hope we might not wait till, I know it's short notice, but if we can get that rolling.
So you're saying sooner than fall?
If we could.
Okay. Of course, Dr. Crowley, please.
I'm happy to reach out to Donna. She's very responsive. So I've had multiple conversations with her throughout the years, and so if it's something that you want to accelerate, I don't know her calendar at all, but she was able to provide the quote that I gave to you back. I think it was in February. She pretty quick, so I think I'm always pleasantly surprised that she's as available as she is for phone calls, consults, etc. So it's good to have a resource. So again, if you want me to reach out, I'm happy to do that.
I think that
if you can't come, maybe just an update email or something, what we should do next.
If I could, I wonder if we could ask if she could come to the Resources Subcommittee, June 11th. maybe even that, I don't know.
We have 2 meetings in June here, too, so if...
Oh, that's true, we do.
Like a later June.
The 26th.
Yeah. If it's possible, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because then we...
It's good for, she did our feasibility study. She has expertise in MSBA, and obviously she has expertise in space capacity issues. So I would support that. So what I'll just talk to the superintendent out about her coming to resources, see if she's available.
And if not, then the
Right.
later meeting.
That's a great idea.
These are
Thank you. I
options.
appreciate that. I appreciate the conversation.
As long as we get a price quote.
Right. And then it's the predicament of the whole thing.
Right.
Everything else.
And kind of a feeling from the city council and the
Right.
mayor.
Okay. All right, thank you for that, Ms. Wetzel, and having that conversation. Student Service and Achievement, Mr. Mulrennan.
Have not met, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I don't have any correspondence to report tonight. Nope, that's left. You received our invite officially to the Woburn Public Schools graduation, and as well as the Senior Scholarship Assembly on June 4th. So, thank you, Woburn High School Administration. Future agenda items? Of course, Dr. Crowley, and yes, Mr.
I
Austin.
have a brief correspondence.
Of
I
course.
sent it out via email to everybody today. Next Thursday, June 5th, is an Above and Beyond celebration at the high school.
Oh.
So we've had dozens and dozens of staff
nice.
nominated, and so that's at 5:30 next Thursday night at the high school. So for those of you that can make it, I think we're trying to make it a special night to honor everybody that makes this place so good.
I'm sorry, you said June.
June 5th, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Crowley. That's
Sure.
an important one. And Mr. Austin, you had
We have
something?
correspondence from Adam Chapman of Woburn CPAC.
Of
I'm
course.
sure this is a perfect time to read in the future, or correspondence, or...
Go right ahead. It's fine.
Sure, and I'll read his words. It says, I'm proud to report that as of May 27th, Woburn CPAC members have elected a new executive board with parent volunteers now serving as president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Additional parent volunteers have offered to step into liaison roles to a number of our schools, out of our school district families, and to Woburn communities. We'd like to thank school committee, Dr. Ryan and Dr. Crowley, for help getting the word out about CPAC families in Woburn. Excuse me. We're seeing more and more parents attending our meetings each month, and we're looking forward to continued collaboration. The new board has plans to meet in June to update our bylaws, draft a new parent survey, and look ahead to start the 2025-26 school year. We're planning school committee candidate forums for the summer and fall, looking forward to ways to support our education, special education families that will be navigating redistricting. And look for updates on the CPAC website, and thank you for your support. Adam Chapman, Woburn CPAC.
Thank you. Any other correspondence? Okay. Future agenda items?
Actually, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Of course, Mr. Lipson.
I forgot it because the correspondent spoke at public comment, but we did receive an email from Emily Peters with the charts that she handed out earlier regarding ECP size.
Oh, I apologize. I haven't checked my
It
email.
came in relatively late
Oh,
today,
okay.
but I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to make sure we acknowledged it.
Ms. Peters is still here. I didn't
Yes.
check my email prior to the meeting, so thank you. Any future agenda items?
You got my list.
Thank you, Mr. Allred, I do. Thank you. Okay, so the school committee does have executive session. I will accept a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of strategy with respect to collective bargaining and/or litigation.
So moved.
I have determined that it is detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school committee, should we not. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Austin?
Yes.
Ms. Chisholm?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yep.
Mr. Lipset?
Yes.
Mr. Morenon?
Yes.
Ms. Wetzel?
Yep.
Ms. Crowley?
Yes.